Hey everybody, this is me, Roger Aladdin Daltrey, and today I'm giving you a tribute video for the late Chuck Berry because 1 year ago today he passed away. And I only found out about this late in the evening actually, because at that time I was watching the Aladdin movie at the time, because again, Aladdin is the man and always will be. Don't stop me from saying that. And yeah, and I think it was, I don't know which scene in the movie it was, but I think it was where the the Prince Ali reprise. And to be honest, yeah, Prince Ali is one of my favorite songs in the Aladdin movie, and possibly one of my favorite songs ever in movies. So that's that. And then what happened was I got a call from someone in my family and to confirm that Chuck Berry had passed away. So after I finished watching the movie, I then went on to a Wikipedia, and then it had been confirmed that he had died. Now, I don't own any Chuck Berry studio albums, but I have a Chuck Berry compilation. This is called Chuck Berry and Other Kings of Rock and Roll. And this is 3 CDs, so you get 2 CDs of Chuck Berry, and the third disc is various artists. I actually have a series on some other artists there, like I've one for Buddy Holly, which is my favourite one of those bunch, of those editions. I have one on Elvis. In fact, I actually have 3 Elvis compilations. And I have one on Jerry Lee Lewis, and I think that's about it. Oh yeah, and I have one on the Everly Brothers, but except for the Everly Brothers, it has all 3 discs of the Everly Brothers. And my dad owns one on Little Richard, which is downstairs in the kitchen. So anyway, so in honor of a 1 year anniversary Chuck Berry video, I'm going to tell you what songs I like by him. So okay, we will go through the track listings. This is like an album review. Okay, so let's see. I love Maybelline. That's a really good tune. And Rolling Stone actually called that the 18th greatest song of all time. And to be honest, I think Maybelline is a good tune. I really like the way in the video he kicks his legs up to his, I don't mean to be rude, but kicks his legs up to his arse. And I think it was very cool. And I remember on WatchMojo.com's top 10 artists of the 1950s, John Lennon was the narrator of that said, even what John Lennon said, if you give rock and roll a name, you might call it Chuck Berry. And for some reason, John Lennon is right, because I think the Beatles were big fans of Chuck Berry, and so were the Rolling Stones. And there's a lot of songs that the Rolling Stones covered here, which I'll talk about on some of the early Rolling Stones albums. Okay, so I like Maybelline, that's a really good tune. I like Wee Wee Hours is pretty good. And Wee Wee Hours is actually a line mentioned in the Bruce Springsteen song State Trooper, and it comes off the 1982 record Nebraska. And that album to me really haunts me, but in a good way, because I think it's a good album to listen to in the dark. And for some reason, Chuck Berry actually got to collaborate with Bruce Springsteen around the time when Bruce Springsteen got the E Street Band back together, just shortly after the Ghost of Tom Joad, and when they were doing the Blood Brothers documentary. And to be honest, Blood Brothers is one of my favourite Bruce Springsteen songs. Okay, I like 30 Days, and it's the same riff as Maybelline. And also, 30 Days are in September, and same with April, June, and November. So there's only 4 months in the year that have 30 days, like my month of the year, which is June. Because as I said already, June 28th is my birthday. And 7 months of 31, which are January, March, May, July, August, October, and December. And then February only has 28 days, but then in leap years it's 29. I like No Money Down. That's a really good tune. And No Money Down, I think, is also a song titled by Lou Reed from the amazing Mistrial record. One of my favourite Lou Reed albums, if not the favourite Lou Reed album after Transformer. Because, you know, I kind of would say that that Mistrial could be my favourite Lou Reed album. I know soon I'm gonna do the ranking of the albums from my least favourite to my favourite, but that will of course change. Sometimes Mistrial for me could be #1, but it's still a #2 for me. Anyway, Downbound Train is pretty good as well, and Downbound Train is also a song title by Bruce Springsteen from the amazing Born in the USA album, and my dad actually played that when he was cooking dinner for most of this week. And to be honest, Born in the USA is a really good album. I must admit, it has a lot of the best songs on it. And also, it's like saying Downtown Train, which is a song titled by Tom Waits. And also, Rod Stewart had covered it as well. I love, of course, Roll Over Beethoven. That's an amazing tune. And Roll Over Beethoven was also covered by the Beatles with the Beatles record, sung by George Harrison. And it was also covered by Electric Light Orchestra from the ELO2 album. That's why ELO2 is my favourite Electric Light Orchestra album from the early years. I love Too Much Monkey Business. I really love the guitar playing, and Elvis covered that on during the 60s, and the Kinks covered that on their 1964 self-titled debut. And as a matter of fact, the message of Too Much Monkey Business to me is my dad actually says that it's very similar to the Bob Dylan song Subterranean Homesick Blues, which comes off my favourite Bob Dylan album, Bringing It All Back Home. And to me, it's and the same with the R.E.M. song, It's the End of the World as We Know It, which is from the album Document, one of my favourite R.E.M. albums. And that song was also played in that Simpsons episode where R.E.M. were guest stars in it, because again, Homer number 2 and Aladdin number 1, because again, Aladdin is the man and always will be. I love Brown-Eyed Handsome Man, that's awesome. And it's like saying Brown-Eyed Girl, Van Morrison, which from Blowing Your Mind, and as I said already, it's a song that you've heard to death, but I don't mind that song, it's really good. And, or even Blue-Eyed Lady by Status Quo from the Hello record. And I think Bob Dylan had that on one of his Team Time radio hours. Let's see, You Can't Catch Me is pretty good, and the opening is a bit similar to I Just Want to Make Love to You by the Rolling Stones from their 1964 self-titled debut, and the Rolling Stones even covered the Chuck Berry song Route 66, which was actually in the Cars movie, which was in the original Cars movie from 2006. I love School Days, or aka Ring Ring Goes the Bell, and it's a bit similar to Riding Along My Automobile. And we keep the Ring Ring, you get Ring Ring, which is the first album of ABBA, which features, of course, Gammy Agnetha, because, once again, look at Jasmine or Linda Larkin and you've seen perfection. And then, what do you do after that? And I like rock and roll music, that's really good. And the Beatles covered that for the Beatles Say record. And John Lennon rips at it. Because John Lennon is easily my favourite Beatle when they were in the Beatles. But in the solo years, this actually might surprise some of you, but I actually prefer George Harrison in the solo years. And I love Sweet Little 16, and in fact, on the early roots of the Beach Boys, because I think for some reason the Beach Boys actually cover that as well. And I have a compilation called The Early Roots of Bob Dylan, and it features all the blues artists on that, and it has some of the tunes like Sitting on Top of the World, which Cream covered for the Wheels of Fire record, and it's got See That My Grave Is Kept Clean from Bob Dylan's debut album, and it's got, what else does it have? Hold on. Oh yeah, it has that Dap It Up and Go and Fixin' to Die. And it also has, what else does it have? Oh yeah, and it even has Stack of Leave from World Gone Wrong. So that's all of disc 1. On disc 2, I like Johnny Be Good, but I'm a bit tired of hearing it. But I did like it at first, but just several songs, you've heard them too much and they get overplayed. So I never want to hear it again in my life. Even though Rolling Stone named that the 7th greatest song of all time and the greatest guitar song of all time by Rolling Stone. And I like Around and Around. I think it's also a song titled by Pink Floyd from the A Momentary Lapse of Reason album. And the Rolling Stones covered that for the 12x5 album, which is one of the US albums. And as I said in my Green Day video, I have the first 5 US Rolling Stone version albums because a lot of my favourite songs are on those editions. I like Beautiful Delilah, that's a really good tune. And I think Delilah is also a song titled by Tom Waits. And it's also, and to me, it's a little bit similar to saying, it's a bit similar to saying to a modern day Delilah, which is a song titled by Kiss from the 2009 record, Sonic Boom. And I do like Sonic Boom. It is one of my favorite Kiss albums, definitely. And however, the only problem I have is that Tommy Thayer is known as Fake Ace, and then Eric Singer is known as Fake Peter. And I like Carol, and I like the Rolling Stones version a lot as well. And it comes off the same album as their as English newest hitmakers. Sweet Little Rock and Roller is pretty good, and I think it's also a song titled by Rod Stewart from the Smiler album. Hey Pedro is pretty good as well. I like his Christmas song Run Bulldog Run, and Sheryl Crow actually covered that on Christmas FM. And she did a good cover of Bob Dylan, Mississippi. And to be honest, Mississippi is one of my favourite Bob Dylan songs. It's from the amazing Love and Theft album, which I said already, I've been playing like mad lately, but I haven't heard it in a while because of shuffle. Because often when I go on the train to town, I often, when I do a shuffle, not many songs from Love and Theft have been coming up lately. But I don't know why, because I love that album so much. I also love Merry Christmas Baby. It's absolutely one of the best versions ever. And I like the Bruce Springsteen version a lot, and he played it live, I think during the I think it was during the River tour, and he did play it on the. I think he did play it on the Born USA tour. Somebody let me know in the comment section if that's true or not. Okay, so I also love Almost Grown. And it's a bit of a similar title to Homegrown, a song titled by Booker T and the MGs from the Soul Dressing album. And I also like Little Queenie. It's even mentioned in the Bob Seger cover of Chuck Berry, Let It Rock. And to be honest, I think Bob Seger was a big fan of Chuck Berry back in the day. And I like Back in the USA. That's an awesome song. And Bruce Springsteen covered that during the when was it? Oh yeah, it was recorded during the I think it was during the Born to Run tour. My favorite Bruce Springsteen album and favorite Bruce Springsteen song. I like Memphis, Tennessee. That's an awesome song. And the Faces even covered that on the And Not As Good As a Wink to a Blind Horse album, which I'll get for you out of my CD collection. So this is it. Right there, Memphis, Tennessee. I love that album by the Faces. It's my favourite Faces album. And also Elvis covered that on the 60s compilation back there. On the 60s collection of The Real Elvis. And yeah, and the rest are pretty good. So that's all I have to say about the Chuck Berry songs. Now I'll go quickly through the various artists while we're here. Okay, so Fats Domino, the Fat Man. It's pretty good. Fats Domino is a really good singer. I like, of course, Blueberry Hill. That's an amazing tune. And I kind of like Ain't That a Shame and even Don't Blame It on Me. I was a bit upset when Fats Domino passed away last year. Then Billy Lee Riley is another amazing tune on here. I really like I don't know if I've heard it, but I presume it's going to be good because it's 50s rock and roll. And when you think of that title, Rock With Me Baby, it's a bit like saying Rock Me Baby, which is a song title by Peter Criss from his 1978 solo Kiss album. I like the Sammy Masters Pink Cadillac, and Pink Cadillac is also a song title by Bruce Springsteen, which is the B-side to Dancing in the Dark. I love Elvis' Heartbreak Hotel, and Heartbreak Hotel has also been mentioned in the Dire Straits song Calling Elvis from the On Every Street album. Because I think Mark Knopfler is a big fan of Elvis. Because of the line, why don't you go get him, I'm his biggest fan. And you gotta tell him he's still the man. Or even, you gotta tell him he's still the man. So, then I like Carl Perkins' Blue Suede Shoes, and of course Elvis had a big hit with it. I prefer the Elvis version more because it's more rockier. I like the Everly Brothers song All I Have to Do Is Dream, and even Roy Orbison covered it as well. And in Paul Stanley's Face the Music, A Life Exposed book, he was mentioning that I think when he first got into music, I think it was that song by the Everly Brothers, All I Have to Do Is Dream. I like Jerry Lee Lewis's A Whole Lot of Shaking Going On. It's pretty cool. Rolling Stone calls that the 61st greatest song of all time. And I like Susie Q. That's by Dale Hawkins. The Rolling Stones covered that for the 12x5 album. And also, Creedence Clearwater Revival covered that on their 1968 self-titled debut. And, what is it? Oh yeah, and for some reason Tom Fogerty does a bit of co-lead vocals on that. And I don't know whereabouts in the song he does the vocals on that. But I have to admit, Tom Fogerty is a good singer. I like, of course, Long Tall Sally by Little Richard, and as I said already, the Beatles covered that for the Past Masters record, and the Kinks covered that for the 1964 self-titled debut, as well as a Beautiful Delilah and Too Much Monkey Business. From the 1964 self-titled debut of the Kinks, which is one of my favourite Kinks albums ever of all time, as I've said in my Leo Sir video. And yeah, that's about it basically, and I think I heard a bit of Lonesome Town. That's a pretty good tune as well. But anyway. And then I thought I would just open it up for you just to see. Yeah. So there's Chuck Berry there for you. That's the video. It's the single video, I think, to Roll Over Beethoven. Here's disc 2. There's Elvis. And then this is also what you can also get in the series as well. So that's it. That's just the album I have for you. Now I thought Chuck Berry was a really good rock and roller, and he absolutely is one of the greatest musicians ever of all time, and even one of the best guitar players as well. You just kind of, it's like back then when you looked at this cover, you kind of had a bit of a different feel to it now that he had passed on, unfortunately. But I really did think Chuck Berry was a really good musician, and I presume that the Rolling Stones were absolutely devastated when he passed away, especially Keith Richards. And speaking of which, Keith Richards even inducted Chuck Berry to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And he even said, "It's a little bit difficult for me to induct Chuck Berry because I licked every lick he played." Because always in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame they do basically anecdotes, like some funny anecdotes about artists. So yeah, that's all I really have to say about Chuck Berry. And also, last year in 2017, he brought out his final studio album called Chuck. The first album he brought out since 1979, and his last performance though was in 2014. That's why I said on the Leo Sayer song, The Last Gig with Johnny B. Good, it could have been his final performance there in 2014. And that, of course, Last Gig with Johnny B. Good comes off the album, what album does it come off? Oh yeah, it comes off the album Another Year. So yeah, that's all I really have to say about Chuck Berry and the musicians. I also wanted to quickly say that a very funny story about Chuck Berry was, at his funeral, Gene Simmons of Kiss was stating that the first time that he ever heard Chuck Berry perform was basically he was in the kitchen, and then basically Johnny B. Good came on, and then he started dancing. And yeah, I presume Gene Simmons liked that, because I think Gene Simmons is a big fan of Chuck Berry. Like, I'm a big fan of both, because I am a Gene Simmons fan anyway. Well, especially as a Paul Stanley fan, because you all know I prefer Paul Stanley to Gene Simmons, but I don't. But I love them both. But every single person knows that I prefer Paul. And a funny story about Elvis is that I remember in that photo of Elvis there, when he does his "thank you very much," the funny story was the genie, who is my favourite comedian character in the Aladdin and the King of Thieves direct-to-video sequel, because again, Aladdin is the man, and Genie's the comedic character, and Jasmine is the woman. The funny story was, there was a one where I don't know what he was doing, but he was doing some dancing kind of thing, and then at the very end he was like, "thank you very much," doing Elvis's impression. But then, when someone denied his offer, I think it was Jasmine who denied his offer, the fringe of Elvis's face fell down right into Genie's nose there, going, meow. Anyway, it was very funny. And Chuck Berry was a really funny guy as well. I presume he was a really nice guy as well. Also, I really like his song, The Promised Land, which is actually a song title by Bruce Springsteen from Dark on the Edge of Town. Now, I'm going to give a quick shout out to my dad here. This year is the 40th anniversary of that album, so when the 2nd of June comes around, play it that day to commemorate the 40th anniversary. And of course, play it in your own spare time, whenever you feel like it. And I think I said it did come out on the same day as Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, You're Going to Get It, and Peter Gabriel too, or commonly known as Melt. But I could be wrong. But I know Scratch came out Scratch came out the day after Dark on the Edge of Town. And also, the band covered that on the Moondog Matinee album as well. So anyway, rest in peace, Chuck Berry. Can't believe it's been 1 year now since you left us. And thanks a lot, guys. I'll hopefully see you in a forthcoming video or so. Take it easy, guys. Bye-bye.